In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey, everyone. How you doing today? Welcome to this very, very hot Saturday here in Michigan at Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journeys, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. I hope everybody is doing well today. How are you, Crystal? I hope things are going well for you. I don't know if you've got the heat up in Canada yet, but we are under a heat wave right now. And it looks like there may be a little lag in StreamYard today. I am sorry about that. I don't know what else to do. It has been definitely acting funky lately. Hey, Indigo, how are you? Guys, today I wanted to talk a little bit about isolation. I know this is something that a lot of us here in the trauma community deal with. And we've talked about it before as we've dabbled in other subjects, but I thought it deserved its own show and to talk more fully about it, about why we do it. Is it a positive coping skill? Is it a negative coping skill? And what do we do to be more connected, to not isolate? So that's what we're all going to speak about today. You guys are getting rain. It missed us. It went just north of us. If it would have hit here, I think maybe it would have cooled things off just a tad bit. But unfortunately, we are going to be in the 90s this week, near 100. So like 35 degrees Celsius or above. It's going to be ugly. Today through like Tuesday, my AC is broken and I have a portable AC unit on order. So one of those room ones. So we'll see as soon as that gets here. In the meantime, it is keeping windows shut, keeping the drapes shut, trying to keep the sun out and stay as cool as possible. I have an ice pack here that I had in my lap to keep me a little bit cool as I'm here because I can't have the fan going. Otherwise, you guys hear it. Unfortunately, there we go. Now I get my ice pack back. I had a cat warming my lap, unfortunately. He's warm, I tell you. That ice pack feels a lot better. Wow. Hi, DeAudrey. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well. Just having dinner, she says. Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, sorry, guys. If I go off screen every time I have to rub my nose a little bit, you guys are gonna get dizzy from the on and off and on and off. I'm allergic to cottonwoods, which is that fluffy stuff that flies through the air, and it just makes my nose itch. as well as I get some sinus headaches from it as well. But the cats are shedding like crazy, especially because of this heat. So their fur is just flying everywhere. I shed them earlier, brushed them, and I get like, some Pomeranians out I swear to God, is as much fur. I have no idea how they have so much fur and are still staying at least like somewhat okay. It just boggles my mind. Um, so yeah, let's talk about isolation. Krista says isolation for me is just a way of life. I've been isolating pretty much my whole life. Yeah, and for a lot of us, it is one of our main coping mechanisms. And um, you know, pe- people isolate in general because other people, or just the environment outside whatever our isolation zone is, whether that's our room, whether that's our home, all of that other stuff is just too triggering. Um, or I should say, it's triggering or too overstimulating, and we have to retreat. Why do we do this? Well, there's a number of different reasons. Trauma is a big one. If we have been traumatized in the past in some way, or if we're easily triggered, um, our nervous system becomes very unregulated when we're around all that extra stimuli, when we're around things that trigger us. And especially if we have unresolved trauma, this can be a mechanism that we use to be able to cope with stress in our lives. Hi, Crystal. At work, just sending some love. Okay, well, enjoy. You can always catch replay. Thank you so much for dropping a little note by. I appreciate it very much. So, those of us who have been traumatized, and whether it's big T trauma, little T trauma, we've learned that we've learned to take care of ourselves, right? We're self-soothers. We learned early, whether it is through, you know, childhood abuse of some sort, sexual, emotional, or physical neglect or abuse, that being alone, being around others is not safe. And so we use isolation as a self-soothing mechanism. Um, and this can, especially when we have childhood trauma, can carry on into our adult lives. If you're an introvert or you're just a highly sensitive person, um, isolation can be a coping mechanism, um, mainly because you like being alone. Being alone is peaceful. It's energizing in some way. Um, if you're a highly sensitive person, then you're more easily triggered than somebody else would be. So somebody else who could just be out in the world, in the mall or something like that, to a highly sensitive person, if there's too many people around, that's just too much stimuli, and you need to retreat and um, protect your own peace of mind. those of us who are traumatized often, we're in this chronic hypervigilant state, constantly scanning our surroundings and, looking for the danger that surrounds us. And so we're always in fight or flight, and we're reading people, we're reading situations, and figuring out, when do I have to pull back from this? Because when we're traumatized, we learn to read situations very well. And whether it's your dad coming home and slamming the car door more forcefully, or your mom's attitude as she's cooking dinner, um, whatever the situation is, we learn to sense that danger before it actually happens. And so to protect ourselves, we retreat to our safe space. It's all about making ourselves feel safe. People who suffer from depression, which of course is an effect of trauma. Now, you can have depression without trauma as well. But if you are depressed, then disengaging from other people feels much better. It feels more normal. We often lack motivation. We don't find joy in doing things. So isolating feels comforting. Indigo says, I feel like these days I'm in freeze fawn. That tends to get me out of bad situations. Yeah, I mean, there's, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and there's a few others. I think there's really 6 in total that we mentioned. I just use kind of fight or flight as just a general, easier to say because I often say it on here. Hi, Polly. Oh, that's so nice. Says, I wish you had met my mom. She ran a branch of the Women's Aid. Well, thank you for stopping by and wishing us all well. Wish you a great day as well. Hi, Carmel. No worries. You're not late. You're right on time. You're right where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be. Sorry, guys, if I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. I have an earache started. I think my allergies are really getting worse as the afternoon is going by. And so between the earache kind of causing headache and just the weather in general, I'm powering through this. I was bound and determined I was still going to go live today. So we're probably going to keep this to just about an hour or so. Excuse me. One of the other reasons that we can isolate, a symptom of CPTSD is also this inner and outer critic that we have. So our inner critic tells us that we're not good enough. So I'm not worthy. I'm not valuable. I don't deserve to be around other people. Friendships aren't for me. People don't like me. I'm not worth anybody's time. And so to protect ourselves, we isolate and we disengage from everybody. That outer critic is you're not good enough. So everybody out there, they're not good enough. They're dangerous. Something's wrong out there. And again, pulling back, being by ourselves, it's much safer. Going along with this is this notion of there's danger everywhere. And there's a lot of reasons, to fear society, to fear, being out in the world. Um, but when we have this sense that being anywhere other than by ourselves is too dangerous to risk, whether because of anxiety or fear, then we will lapse into isolation. Hey, Jen Marie. Yes, you are very dangerous, Jen. Hope you're enjoying our weather. Jen's only a few hours from me, so she's getting the heat as well. Also, people who are just neurodivergent. So if you're on the autism spectrum, you have ADHD, their brains perceive the world as unsafe or too stimulating. And so being by themselves is safer, more comfortable, more soothing, and so it feels better. A lot of us who have trauma, you can fall. I think as I went through these other reasons, you don't have to have trauma to feel or to feel like using isolation as a coping mechanism is the right thing to do. But a lot of us kind of have all of this, or at least, multiples of this. So we have numerous reasons for wanting to pull away and wanting to be by ourselves, and why isolation feels like the safest option for us. Now, I titled this, the thumbnail says, trauma and isolation, but the actual title is Isolation, Positive or Negative Coping Skill. And I'm going to say to you that it is a negative coping skill. Reason being is I heard a distinction today that I really liked. And we've spoken about this before, about the idea of isolation, that it can be a positive coping skill. But what I heard today was, instead of saying isolation can be a positive coping skill, that when we retreat, when we pull back, when we're doing it in a way that does not negatively impact us or is not a negative in our life at large, that's solitude. So wanting or needing solitude is positive. Wanting or needing isolation would be negative. And I like this distinction. Now, you don't have to use that distinction. You can also talk about it as being a positive coping skill. And how can wanting to be by ourselves be a positive coping skill? Well, when it's not for an extended period of time. So a few hours, a few days. We need alone time to relax, to recharge. I know popular term is bed rotting. If you're going to do that for a day or so, but it's self-care. And that is positive. Giving our nervous system a break, re-energizing ourselves, nurturing ourselves. These are all positive reasons to have solitude or to isolate ourselves from others. Now, how do you tell if if you're using it positively or negatively? If at the end of that period of time, one, if there is an end to that period of time, and if at the end of the period of time, whether it's a few hours or a few days, you connect back with the world again and you feel re energized, you feel rested, you feel like you had a reset, then you're able to use that alone time in a positive way. Now, I also heard this term, and I don't know if I've heard it before, but I certainly haven't really thought about it too much or used it, discussed it. But the functional freeze state. So, yes, you are engaged with other people, or you may re engage with other people, but it's on a very surface level. Your relationships are very hollow. You may go out with others, but you're not really present. You're not enjoying your time. So it's a functional freeze state. And I like this notion a lot because, wow, does that describe me a good portion of the time? If my depression is not controlled, I definitely can force myself to connect with others, to be back out in the world, to text my friends or even take a phone call, but I'm not as invested in it as I would be if I was in a good place, if my emotions were truly regulated. Hey, Shannon, how are things going? Hi, Polak. I'm glad you're here. Polak says the highest form of knowledge is empathy, for it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world. You know, connection really is key. We as human beings are not meant to be solitary beings. Despite how safe being alone may feel, we still need love and inclusion in the world. Now, I would argue that there are people, a very small population, that can be truly happy totally alone. There's extremes for everything. And so I'm not saying that there isn't a person out there that you couldn't find who is happy as a clam, as a total hermit, no internet connection with other people, not a job that they have to speak to anybody. They are 100% by themselves all the time, and they need zero connection. But that is a really small portion. Because again, we humans, we need connection. And this is why people who are depressed, while it can often help to have at least an animal companion, while you're not connecting with another human being and not engaging and not being a part of the larger world, there is some form of connection there. You are having to give to another entity, mainly, taking care of them. And in turn, you are receiving love. So that, at least that sort of connection, it's a very powerful thing. But we are meant to be connected to each other. engaging with others, speaking with others, forming relationship. Audrey says, my husband says he needs one other human and a cat. And again, I'm not arguing that there aren't people out there who are very happy with limited social interaction. You know, that's why we have introverts and we have extroverts and we have everybody in between. Some people need to be the center of attention. They need to be around people all the time. They enjoy it. They thrive off of that stimulus. For others, that's too much. For me, at this point in my life, you know, I have you guys who I interact with virtually. And I have a very small portion of friends who I stay in contact with, you know, fairly regularly. And with that, I'm happy. You know, I have my small family and a small section of friends, and I'm good with that. For me personally, I'm not as engaged in the world as I feel I need to be. I'm still working through things. Isolation still feels sweet. Sweet. I'm reading Shannon's comment. Isolation still feels the safest a lot of times. I also know that that is my depression talking. And so I've noticed my depressive symptoms. You know, you can be angry, anxious, fearful, fatigued, lack of motivation, lack of joy in hobbies or interests or people. You know, there's a lot of different symptoms of depression. And I've noticed that as time has gone on, my symptoms in relation to my depression have certainly changed. It used to be anger, fatigue, sadness, mainly those. Now I find that it's more lack of motivation, lack of enjoyment, you know, this paralysis. When I am engaged, it's more of this functional freeze engagement, not fully there. And so it's really interesting how same condition, but how it's manifested itself has changed over the years. So I'm definitely working through that. So if you have depression and if isolation is your only or your main coping mechanism, and you're that way, meaning isolated for days or weeks or months on end, that's when it's a negative coping skill. What do we do about it? Well, we connect with others. For one, we try and heal any of the trauma that we're dealing with, because healing our trauma is going to allow us to engage in the world again. It's going to allow us to regulate, you know, have regulated emotions without being in this constant hypervigilant state. So working through your trauma is extremely important. If you self-isolate for a reason that doesn't stem from trauma, we need to rely on positive coping skills. We need to learn positive coping skills. And this is a whole host of things. Anything that calms your nervous system. So, yoga, breathing exercises, the somatic exercises that we've spoken about. Exercise, even just as simple as walking, connecting back with nature, changing our environment, volunteering, helping somebody else in some way, whether it's volunteering as part of an organized group effort, or just helping out your neighbor or somebody in your family, and giving to somebody else, because we get such self-satisfaction from giving that is a big boost for us. Connecting with others. And there is nothing wrong with connecting, being out in the world, and then disengaging as well. And then connecting and disengaging. Especially in the beginning. If you're isolating for weeks or months on end, that's too much just to go from 0 to 100. But putting ourselves out there just a little bit. And if we need to pull back, that's okay. But we need to then keep putting ourselves out there. And it's baby steps, as with everything else. Baby steps are okay. And it's not a failure if we have to disengage. And as we stated, solitude, whether you call it solitude or whether you call it, isolation as a positive coping mechanism, it can be very healthy to pull back. And some people need to do that daily. I have X much to give for other people, give of myself, whether that is for friendships or dealing with people at work or family. I have X much to give. And once I've used that up for the day, that's it. And then I need to recharge and I need to re-energize. But if pulling away and being by yourself, if when you connect with the world again is never feeling good, if you're never feeling rested, if you're never feeling joyful when you're putting yourself back out there, then we're not really using that time alone in a positive way, as a positive coping skill, I guess I should say. Hi, Cinnamon. How are you doing today? Glad you're here. Yeah. Cinnamon says that I feel the same way. This part of my life, I let few people in. I used to be the opposite. And, there's nothing wrong with changing our outlook on being out in the world, right? Or how many people we feel comfortable with. It's harder to maintain and grow and even establish friendships or relationships later on in life. We're set in our ways. We've got things that we like and that we dislike. And especially if we have been using isolation as a negative coping skill. It is much easier to maintain the status quo that way than to stretch ourselves and put ourselves back out in the world and connect with other people. But really, for our mental health, we need to do this. And again, all of these positive coping skills that we've discussed, if there's times where you're feeling good, we need to practice them then, because practice makes perfect. And if we don't, it's much harder to develop a skill when you're not feeling good, when you're too stressed out, when you're overstimulated. So we need to try these things when we have moments of clarity, moments of feeling okay. And that level can be different for everybody. You know, I definitely have what I call my good days and my bad days and my meh days. And on days where I'm feeling good and I'm actually productive, those are the exact days that I need to be practicing every positive coping skill that I have. At least pulling a couple out and saying, okay, I'm going to practice these ones today. Because the meh days that I have or the bad days that I have, it's much easier to rely on those positive coping skills when I need them then. Tara's just looking back on the comments real quick. Um, so yeah, connecting with other people. And in terms of the volunteering or doing something for somebody else, this kind of rolls me right into the People Matter message project that I announced last week about leaving a note somewhere for somebody that you matter, that you're brave, that tomorrow will be better. You got this. Keep going. And do it anonymously. You know, that can be, you know, that you did something good. Somewhere out there, somebody needs to hear that. And maybe that note you scribbled on the receipt at the restaurant made that server smile. Or that note you left in a library book, somebody else checks it out and goes, wow, I needed to hear this today. And so it's a way of helping others. Now, for those of us who isolate, doing something anonymously can be a way of re-engaging ourselves with the world without having to have that direct interaction with another person. But at least we're engaging with the world. You know, leave a note underneath the canned peas at the grocery store. Or, you know, tape a post-it note to the gas pump, whatever it is. So this is the project that I have set out for you guys, kind of like the clothesline project. I wanted you to take a picture of any note that you leave and email it to me, survivingtogether@gmail.com. And then after a number of weeks, we'll put them all together and do a montage, do a little slideshow. and see what people have been doing. If you're at the point in your life where you're not out in the world and you're isolating to the point where you're not really leaving your house, or if you have agoraphobia, you can do this with whoever is with you in your household, spouse, family. I leave notes for my son sometimes. He's been off on vacation, so I haven't had a chance to leave anything for him before work lately, but I plan on doing that next week. And I'll take a picture of the note that I leave for him, and I'll include that in our collection. The times that I do get out, I need to remember I need to keep some scratch paper in the car so that I have something to write on and be able to leave something out in the world for somebody. If you live alone, leave a note for yourself. Whether it's somewhere that you know you're going to see it, next to the coffee maker, or whether it's in a desk drawer that you do go in and you may find a week from now, that doesn't matter. I could put one on my bookshelf in my office here, which I don't look at all the time, but maybe once a week or once every other week, I'm in there looking for something and I'm bound to see it for myself. So leave yourself a note. Nothing wrong with that either. And it's an act of kindness towards someone. And that someone just may be yourself. Or in terms of the project, what I've also said is leave a comment on one of our videos. Somebody watches on replay and they're reading the comments afterwards. Maybe that was a really difficult video to get through, but they needed to hear that message. And then just leaving a comment for, hey, reader, if you watch this video or if you're just reading the comments, I wanted to tell you, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. And take a screenshot or a snip and send that in. And we can include that in our montage as well. If you're uncomfortable with sending something in with your name on it, because it's going to have your YouTube username on it, you can black that out, or just ask me to, and I can black it out before we put everything together. So that's a possibility as well. But I want to use this project as a challenge to you guys to, one, do something kind for somebody else, because I guarantee you it's going to make you feel good too. Even if you don't know who or when another person is going to see that note. I also challenge you to do it because for those of us who tend to isolate, have a work at home job, I can get groceries delivered, or somebody can, I can order them and somebody can pick them up. I don't have to go out very much. This is a challenge for me in that it forces me to go out into the world. I thought about taking a piece of chalk with me on a walk and writing a note on one of the squares of sidewalk. Do that on a public sidewalk where somebody walking that path may see that message. There's another option. Just take a picture of it and send it on in. Love to see what you guys come up with. I had one sub tell me that the school that she works with, they have a particular day during the school year where they do this, and they sprinkle them all around campus. They write these just anonymous notes and they sprinkle them all around campus. And I think that's a wonderful idea. So anything that you guys come up with, and that's why I'm interested to see the notes that you read, the notes that you write, and B, the places that you leave them. Lots of different ideas. And if you guys come up with something else that I haven't mentioned, another way of leaving a note for somebody, let me know. Throw it in the comments afterwards. Love to hear your ideas. Somebody else may be struggling with this, going, I don't go to restaurants. I'm not at cafes. I walk or take public transportation, so I'm not at the gas station. I can't stand the crowds at grocery stores, so that's not a place I go to. How else can I do this? So if you have any other ideas, definitely let us know. Leave notes in library books. Yeah. I wonder if you could ask at Barnes and Noble or something, hey, can I leave a note in one of the books that you're selling? I don't think they'd mind. Somebody's bound to get that book at some point. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of this, Cinnamon. It says if someone is, whoop, a little bit of a delay. If someone is helpful at a store, I tell a manager because they get gift cards. I never knew that. What kind of stores have you found that kind of policy at? I'd be really interested to know if our local grocery store does that. They're essentially a Midwest chain. They're in, I think, Michigan, Indiana, maybe Ohio. Jen, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I know Indiana and Michigan, and I think that they've expanded into Ohio as well. So they're not super duper large, but they have quite a number of stores. So I wonder if they have a policy like that. I could see some place like Walmart doing it. You have a national chain. Indigo says, I leave notes in library books. Yep, that's absolutely something that you can do. So people get gift cards at Target, Walmart, HEB. We don't have HEB around here, but we do have Target and Walmart. I will have to remember that. I'm going to tell my parents about that too. Because they're definitely the type of people, if someone's had great service, they're going to tell the manager, particularly if it's at a restaurant. Because a lot of times otherwise management doesn't get feedback on the servers unless they're getting yelled at for some reason because of something that was wrong with the meal. So it's definitely important to give this positive feedback to other people. I think that's about all I have for today, guys. So a little shorter of a live, but hopefully you got something out of it as we talk about isolation and seeing where it comes from and how it can be used as a positive coping skill. It's just that when it drags on, we've gone into negative territory. Let's see. I wanted to bump up here for a second. So Carmel put a GoFundMe, Stand with Jen Marie today. Jen's got a GoFundMe going, I guess. I'm not sure what it's for. Um, Perhaps just life in general type things. But if you are interested in donating to her cause, there is her link. I will put up briefly my GoFundMe link there. My GoFundMe is for my book, to be able to get to the book launch and to pay off the rest of the author's fees that I still owe since it's an anthology. The authors themselves are chipping in to get the book published. The Women Changing the World organization is handling all the publicity for the book. And I am looking to get to Vancouver, Canada for our book launch, which is in November. I have to book my flight here fairly soon. I've raised about $200 so far. So thank you to everybody who has donated thus far. I really, really appreciate it. Even if you cannot donate, if you could share out the GoFundMe link, that would be super, super helpful. So whether it's on your YouTube page, whether you're sharing out, I've got a community post that talks about why I'm looking to raise the money. And also in the GoFundMe, you can find there's a description as to the book launch and breakdown of fees and why I'm looking to go to the book launch. It's an opportunity to actually speak on the authors panel. Definitely going to be pumping Surviving Together and the wonderful community that we have created here, and just talking about trauma and healing in general. And so that is the main reason that I want to get to this book launch, to be able to connect with other people, and it'll be a huge networking opportunity for what I'm looking to do in terms of getting our message out there about trauma education and trauma healing. So either my community post, or actually you can go to the GoFundMe and you can find a description. And if you could share it out, whether it's reposting on YouTube, putting it on your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever socials, you happen to use, that would be super appreciated. And I'm sure the same for Jen's, if you guys feel inclined, that would be helpful to her as well. Our groupings are only so big. So the best opportunity that we have to be able to meet goals are to be able to get the message out to more people. And that is, I'm sorry, Carmel, did you misspell something? This might get boring. You can help map out for a book launch. Did you truly, truly mean boring? Now I got a bone to pick with you, Carmel. I'm not even going to try and figure out what you were going to say. Hi, Fuzzy Adventures. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. Fuzzy says they're going to be putting out more content next week. So that's wonderful. Geaudrey, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. But again, if you could just share out the link and share the message out as to why I'm trying to go and what it is, that would be tremendously helpful. I don't know if everybody around the world can donate to GoFundMe. I do also have PayPal and Cash App if that's a better option for people, depending on the country that you're in. So you can let me know. It was meant jokingly. Okay. I figured you weren't serious, but I thought, well, maybe you just mistyped a word and you meant to say something else. You guys might get tired of me saying it, but I'm definitely trying to raise about $1,000 as soon as possible. So about another 800 to go in order to, that would cover my passport, the flight, and the next month's author fees. The flights I'm researching right now, I may try to fly intra-Canada, so from Windsor, Ontario, Canada to Vancouver instead of going from like Detroit to Vancouver, trying to see what's going to be more economical for me. And I'm hoping to get some more details about the dates that I need to be there locked in, because I can't book my flight until I absolutely know that. So, and a little bit of a juggling act. So trying to raise the money, trying to get the dates locked in, and then also be able to get the, get the flight actually scheduled. Okay. Well, with that, I'll remind you one more time about the people, about the You Matter message. Leave something for somebody else somewhere. Like I said, on another video, comment on another video, or this video, it doesn't matter. Put it on a sidewalk in chalk, leave it in a restaurant or the grocery store, or leave it in your house for someone to find, even if that someone is you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Cinnamon. I'm just about signing off anyway. Yes, absolutely, Indigo. Booking through Priceline or other apps for discounts. The hotel, I'm waiting to hear about the hotel that they've chosen, because I want to, depending on the price, I'd love to be in the hotel where the event's being held so that I don't have to travel. But if the cost of that hotel is too much, I at least, want to be somewhere close. So until I know that location, I can't actually book the hotel, but I definitely will be trying to take advantage of that when I can. And fortunately, my Canadian friends, you guys have given me some tips on the better, cheaper airlines in Canada to fly, if I can get on any of those. And yes, that's one of the things that I'm looking for, is once they announce the hotel that it's going to be at, they might have block room rates. And so being able to take advantage of that, it might be worth it just to be able to stay right there versus having to come from a different hotel. I've never been to Vancouver, so it's kind of an experience for me. So, I don't want to have to Uber all the way. It's in November. It's going to be cold. So I don't want to be too far away. If I just have to walk a couple of blocks, I'm okay with that. But I think anything beyond that is going to require an Uber or something if I need to be traipsing back and forth to the event. So we'll definitely see what becomes of that. Hi, Tiff. How are you? Glad you dropped by today. Thank you. We are inching up, guys. We are 75 watch hours from 3,000. So we are creeping up there. I may try and do an extra live here in the coming weeks. Maybe an extra live a week or something, just to kind of see if we can get there. Just be a really nice goal to meet. And honestly, I'm really interested as to whether or not they'll monetize this station. I know that monetization is still only for super chats, and I think members being able to have those two things. And I should be able to at least get both of those. But I'm kind of curious. So we'll see. That's why I'm looking at possibly doing that. Bear, I don't have a call in at all, and I'm just about signing off, so I can't have anybody jump up right now. If you have a comment or a question, certainly drop it in the chat right now, and I can try and answer it. Or I can at least mention the comment. But welcome here. I'm Baranowitz, I think is maybe how you'd say the whole thing, but I'll just call you Bear. But welcome to our SAS community here. I'm glad you're here. I'll just hang for just a second and see if you have a comment or a question that you pop in. I have to order my portable air conditioning unit since I cannot get my air conditioning, my central air fixed in time for this heat wave that we're having right now. So I was going to do that. My son's like, no, I'll take care of it. I want to look up different things and I want it. But right now he's helping a friend put it in a subwoofer in his car. And he just changed his downpipe in his new car yesterday. So he's very excited about that. And his last piece that he needs to put his new motorcycle back together again finally came. And he is absolutely thrilled. So that's going to be his next project that he'll be working on, because he pretty much hasn't been able to ride it since he got it. I think he rode it like twice, and then something went, and it was like the bearings. And he decided to replace some other pieces once he took everything apart and figured out what was wrong with it. Replaced a few other pieces, and he got all of those. And then the one thing that he absolutely needed, these bearings, finally came. And I think it's been like 4 or 5 weeks. I have no idea why it took so long to get them. But he had to order them for a specialty or something. You guys are having a heat wave also? Yeah, it is. Wow, is it steamy out? I might actually go jump in the pool. I don't actually have a bathing suit that fits, but I'll put on a sports bra and a pair of shorts. Actually might go take a dip if I can't get it cool enough here in the house. But it's much hotter. I'm on the 3rd floor right now. My office is on the 3rd floor, so it's much hotter up here than it is even on the main floor. So I'll probably hang out on the couch for the rest of the day. Take my laptop with me and do some work down there, where it's definitely cooler. The only problem is then the cats want to come up and snuggle, and it's like, it's too hot. It's too hot for cat snuggling. Like I said, I've shed them so many times. They are shedding like crazy, and the fur is just everywhere. And I did them both this morning. I have this little tool with these teeth in it, and it just takes the undercoat out. And I mean, just piles and piles. And I throw it in this tree that I have right next to my porch. And the birds love it because they line their nests with it. And they just think it's fabulous. So it's always gone. I don't know who takes it, but it's always gone. So Okay, well, I don't see a comment from Bear anything. 96 Fahrenheit. Yeah, we're supposed to be between 90 and 100 for the next 4 days, and the humidity is really bad. So they said definitely pushing over 100. I think like Monday and Tuesday. So we're just going to steadily increase. So we're right there with you, Kermel. I wish we were having the same rain that Crystal was getting up in Canada. There was a big rainstorm that went through, but it went north of me, unfortunately. So we didn't get any relief from that. We only got the mugginess. So with that, I'll wish you guys all well and have a wonderful Saturday. Please, if you want, stick around. If you haven't liked already, before you head out for the day, if you could just hit that like button, really helps the algorithm, helps push the channel out to the rest of YouTube. And if you can leave a comment at some point, that's great as well. That really, any engagement with the show tells YouTube that, yep, people like it, people are watching. So we'll push it out to even more people. So that is another way that you can help get the word out about surviving together. So enjoy our end song made by our own Jimena Magic of Healing. And our own wonderful Misha had made our intro. So please enjoy. Remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. Hugs and love from me. I will see you guys Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, and have a safe time in between. And if you're part of the heat wave, please take care of yourself. Surviving together, never alone.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you.